Hey, it's Smokin with Swami. I'm Swami Chaitanya.
Is it rolling, Bob?
Apparently it is.
Okay,
So,
let's start seriously.
we've had
Give
some
it a second
requests.
and stop. Okay, now start.
No, we've had some requests lately. We already started. We're not stopping here. We had some requests lately for people wanting to know, how do we meet?
Yeah, some guy, Vegan Sapien, wrote in.
How do we...
Are you serious? That was his
very,
name.
yeah, very
And he
interesting
said
name.
he'd like to know specifically, how did we meet, etc., and our relationship, but what did cannabis have to do with it as well as through the years?
Yeah, right. So, so you remember how we met slightly differently than the way we met, but why don't you tell...
I thought we met in Washington Square Park in San Francisco, not New York, San Francisco, around 1969, when you were hanging out with a whole bunch of artists and poets that I knew, and we just met because you were part of this whole group, and I met you and your old lady at the time, as we called them,
right,
and your new son, or maybe Melchior wasn't quite. Yes, he was born.
Just about being born, yeah.
And yeah, that's when I met you there.
And what year was that, you think?
I think it was 69.
69, okay.
Probably October or something, November, end of 69.
Yeah, see, and I kind of remember. Well, you did a funny thing there, right? Didn't you? Your friend Agnes. She came over and said, "Let's go to North Beach." And what you got? What?
Oh,
No, this is a story. You got to tell a story.
Okay. How we went down there. Agnes said, "Let's go to North Beach because I hear there's some groovy hippies down there." And we first thought we'd bring some food and pass around because that would be a good way to break the ice. Because we were kind of shy.
And what did you bring?
Young teenagers.
Yeah.
And so we brought. I think Agnes carried the grapes, and our friend Peaches had the French bread, and I had the artichoke hearts.
Artichoke hearts. See, she was
we
always...
went to an Italian deli. What else were you going to get?
So that's right.
And so
but I don't recall that I got any fruit.
Maybe it was just the rest of the clan.
This was
maybe,
very...
but if so, I met you like the following week or something, because as of that day, I was there almost every day for a long time.
Right. So we were all hanging out in Malvina's cafe in the daytime, and then the Cafe Trieste at night, right? And but I kind of remember seeing you in the Malvinas over a cappuccino, right?
Maybe.
You would be embroidering something, right?
Yeah.
And but we were, she was 14, I had an old lady, and so on. So we saw hello, how are you?
I was just a curious teenager,
right.
observing the situation.
And then now fast forward to about 10 years or so.
Very curious. 10 years later, then in about what did I say?
78?
80, I think it was,
80.
1980. I'd come back already from spending a year in India and traveling overland to get there.
Right.
And you'd already lived in India. You lived
in
South America, and I'd been to South America. And
yeah.
we'd both kind of traveled and heard about it via the grapevine of the same circle of friends.
Right.
And then
but I remember walking up Grand Avenue in North Beach and looking into the Savoy Tivoli. And at one of those tables in Oakland Terrace, right, there she was. She had a big, what was it, gardenia or some sort of fake flower in your hair, right?
Yeah.
And long brown hair, and she looked just gorgeous. She'd lost a lot of her baby fat, you see.
He finally noticed me.
Yeah, right. Well, she went and did the Ganges water diet in India.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but we still didn't hook up then. It was just like a little flash.
No, we saw each other. We had coffee. It was nice.
Right.
And then, did I go off and get married? I think I did.
I think you did.
Yeah, I went off and got married for a couple of years. And you went off to Philadelphia and studied.
I went to Penn to study.
And then we met again that.
But see, I wasn't Swami yet. You can't. I wasn't Swami.
Right.
I was different. Right.
Right. He was very different. Okay. like blue jeans and plaid shirts and Brooks Brothers jackets. It was kind of what we called the class. It was radical classical. It's this mix of Ivy League and Haight-Ashbury. Absolutely, all over the place.
Because I got to San Francisco in the summer of love originally. Yeah.
So
okay.
So then one night, there was
I was having a party at my house, which was a little bachelor pad up on Telegraph Hill by Coit Tower,
and Agnes told me about it.
Agnes
again told me. She said, "Let's go. We can wear our old high school uniforms because." We still had them. I don't know why. We still had our high school uniforms.
But
we did.
that was what? This plaid?
Herringbone.
Herringbone.
Navy blue and white herringbone, yeah. Yeah.
Miniskirt.
Very short, extremely short. I can't believe nuns let us wear those.
And you had this dark blue sweater.
Yep.
Probably a Peter Pan collar.
Yep. And we went to this party, and by now we were like 25 or something.
Right.
Much more mature women. Yes. And we went to this party up on the hill, and all the old gang was there, including Swami, who was having a little bit of a bewildering time. I found out later he had 7 girlfriends there, or 5, maybe only 5.
I thought it was 8. I can't remember actually, but
he loses track.
Anyway,
this is before he was Swami.
Before I was Swami, right?
And I was just there for the party.
Right, but in order to deal with that, I had to get drunk. Which probably was the last time I was ever drunk, but I just got totally blotzoed.
That's a good way, because then you don't really have to talk to any of them.
Right, that's right.
I got it.
Right, so then what happened?
So then you passed out, right?
Right, and I'm up on the couch, passed out, and then our friend...
everyone starts leaving. Right. And as I'm starting to leave, our old friend, mutual friend James Rito, comes up and says, Nikki, come here, follow me. Why don't you meet somebody again? And he took me into this other room where William, in his little blue jeans and plaid shirt or whatever, is passed out on the chair, the couch. And Rito takes over and takes my hand and puts it with William's hand, right, like this. And he immediately opened his eyes and, well,
like
not
this.
Quite like
Not quite like
that. But it wasn't like a bolt of lightning, but it almost was. And he was sober.
I was totally sober at that point, having just about, So
then, and Rito left, and we stayed up discussing philosophy all
night together.
Yeah, that's
now
right.
I need you more than ever.
So that was how we met again, because we'd really known each other already.
Right.
But from then on, it was like, obviously my first marriage was shortly thereafter over.
Right. But I had to go back to Penn, and then we did this long distance thing for a little while. And then I came back, and then we moved
in the city. You moved back. I moved back to the city.
And you
I
lived
obviously
at Patty.
had to leave where I was living in Santa Cruz, came back to the city, and got a job as a copy person at the San Francisco Chronicle newspaper, which in those days was really fun because newspapers meant something, and that was a cool job. So that's like the lowest of the low, but it's where you also meet everybody because you're like gophering around, meeting every single person. So I quickly knew everyone. And then he came back from the East Coast, and we moved in. We did the Chronicle years.
Right, but we moved in with Patty Warren to begin with.
For a while.
That was
and then we got our,
Then we
did the San Francisco period. You wouldn't recognize us.
Now the other part of the question is, what part did cannabis play in all of this? We'd forgotten that part.
It never stopped.
It never stopped.
Let me think.
Somehow cannabis always flowed through us.
Yeah, I mean,
at a certain point, it just like...
It was the ceremony.
It was there.
I guess you could say it was the ceremony that we constantly...
The ritual.
Performed. The ritual that we constantly...
Of sharing consciousness through the magical herb.
By now we must have smoked 1 million joints together.
1 million joints.
Should have bought stock at
I smoked 1 million joints. So,
where were we?
But we're not really being very specific about... Because you know what? Cannabis is great for making love. There's just no doubt about it, right?
Yeah.
It's one of the best of all those things that you can, for making love, right? And therefore it has a lot to do with our relationship.
Yeah. Well, we did more than that.
Oh, we would. Oh, right. Well, see, I was being a photographer and painter at the time, so I was always smoking to get inspired.
And I was working all day at the newspaper, so we were always getting high on the roof.
So
it was the 1980s after all, So it was that was a great time. We were totally in the midst of the heart of San Francisco. We were in the belly of the beast, but she was a beautiful beast then, and very interesting. And it was the 80s, and my job was assistant to the society editor of the San Francisco Chronicle. So we spent nights going to fancy parties, and believe it or not, William would put on a tuxedo at the drop of a hat, and off we'd go to some fancy party. And
but you have to say that in order to make my living at that time, I was remodeling houses.
Yeah.
So I might have come from repairing a toilet or something like that, the drain pipe, right? Yeah. And Nikki would call up and say, "Well, we got another black tie event." So I'd, get in my car, come home, shower up, and put on a tux.
Yeah,
but I'd been crawling underneath the basement like an hour before. Right? It was like, what?
He's got a lot of Gemini in his chart. So do I. We both can do a lot of different things. Yeah, we jump around a lot.
Right.
So at a certain point in 1982, actually a major life-changing thing happened, which was both of my parents passed away within 4 months of each other. My father being only 70, my mother 66. Of course, that's a very sad story, and we don't have to go into that. But the outcome changed our lives. Because if I'd stayed a copy person and he was cleaning toilets forever, let's just admit it, we weren't going to be doing
But we
this.
still would have had cannabis, and we still would have had each other.
We still would have had cannabis because this whole time cannabis kept us going. Absolutely. And yeah. And we always had the connections. Somehow, just because of who we are, we always had the connections to the cannabis in the city because we knew the people.
Well,
so
we don't want to go into a lot of detail about that.
It did flow through us, actually, So there was... So then at a certain point after my parents passed away and we went through a lot of that kind of work for a while, cleaning, the estate work, after about a year or two, I guess. First we bought some property and we got married. We actually got married. We figured if we could get through all this stuff together by then, we might as well get married.
Well, we'd also traveled by then, too.
Well, then we started taking a few short trips to Asia together. And then we ended up spending a good part of from about 1986 to 96 together in India and Asia, China, Thailand.
Well, pretty much 24/7.
Whole other chapters that you can refer to on YouTube and other chapters.
Right.
The Asian travels. And that changed our lives as well. Boom. Transformation. So now we're in the world of Shiva. And Shiva's all about transformation. And boy, did our lives start transforming. So...
But Shiva's all about cannabis.
Yeah.
Bong, edible. Maybe
so
that's
we
enough.
always were the stoners. Even at the Chronicle, I was always the stoner. You were like, we were,
Well, right. I mean, I had a studio on Haight Street. It was always about, being involved in the place where inspiration was happening.
Yeah.
Inspiration was the wellspring of creativity.
But then nobody spoke about it as medical. Or I remember coming back from India, right, in 96, when everyone started talking about it as, no, you call it medical now.
No, but in the early days, it wasn't about medical, and it wasn't about recreational.
Mm.
It was always about creativity.
Yeah.
It was always about energy.
Yeah.
It was always about the exchange of vibration and energy. Yeah. And so, how many rock and roll songs, how many reggae songs, any kind of songs are written because of cannabis flowing through everybody's brain?
Yeah.
Right? What percent? 99%. I don't know. Any other music, right? It all has that inspirational quality because cannabis...
You could say we never would have met without cannabis because I never would have had it as a little, 14-year-old teenager, get it together, go to North Beach to meet the hippies if I wasn't getting high, right? I would have stayed home and gone to piano practice or something. I don't know.
See, now here's the thing. So, it's like they want to put a 21-year-old limit on cannabis smoking in this new law, and that's what they say about tobacco and so on and so forth. But most people that I ask started smoking between 14 and 16. I mean, are we not supposed to say that public?
That's really hard to say. It depends on the person
They don't know what happens to the brain development is what they're saying. Yeah. But in fact, the matter is they don't know what happens.
Well, look at me.
You seem pretty smart to me.
You can study me if you want.
But I didn't start smoking till I was like 25 or 26. Yeah. So that's a little different. But
so anyway, we're kind of at this part. Let's wrap this up to this.
But you were saying about your parents when they died at 66 and 70.
Yeah.
I'm older than 70. You're almost 66.
Well, I'm 61.
Okay.
Years.
All right. All right. She's quite a bit younger, and I'm a little older. So, all right. But here we are, and
as you get older, it counts every year the other way.
What? Yeah. Right.
No. So it's what we're going to kind of like get to the point now where we've done these years
my
at
young
the city.
Bride.
We've done the city. We've done this whole major metropolitan thing. Gone on to India, and now lived around Asian, and
now we live in the
country. About 1996, and in the next video, we're going to tell you about what happened then.
Oh, right.
Because then there was like
karma hit.
Just you could call it a second Saturn return or whatever, but basically we had to go our separate ways to find this next incarnation because we all go through many incarnations in our lives
within a single lifetime. Yes.
Many. And,
and
as long as you just see them as that, well, we can still smoke it.
We don't have to smoke it on camera?
No.
Oh, okay.
Because that's something that's held our relationship together.
The family that smokes
Actually,
together stays
It's
together.
the glue on the end of the papers that's kept our family together.
Right, but you don't want to lick the glue off. That's true. Right.
Okay, so we're living in India now. Like, we've got a house up in the Himalayas for the summer months and a house in Goa for the winter months where it's tropical, and we're kind of moving around like the birds and stuff, going back and forth.
Off to China,
And going
Thailand.
to a lot of temples. He's a photographer, taking tons of pictures. That's an excuse to get out to these very unusual and rare temples we get out to, which
We were
gets us
temple
both
hoppers.
really into temple life and into the whole
Right, that's
experience of being in the Hindu culture. And I mean, we can't downplay that. It was an extremely important part of our life, is this whole...
Well, right, exactly.
I
That's
mean,
how we
yeah.
got introduced to the magic of, you
Yeah.
know, divine presence manifested in so many ways, and also into the ritual practice of how a temple works. And but for me, it was all through the art of temples, of building that create a spiritual space that now enable people to encounter divine energy in ways that are traditional and yet radical at the same time.
So we did a little bit of everything in India in those years. You know, I even did some journalism and wrote back stories. Swami took a lot of photographs. We lived in the mountains, which was just beautiful and remote, and kind of like where we live, but much more...
Well, there were a lot more people.
Everywhere.
Right.
Hello, sir, what you doing?
Well, we had this whole rhythm. We would live for like 2 or 3 months up in the mountains in the Himalayas, and then 3 or 4 months down in South India, and then travel around various places also.
And it was a great life. It was a really great life. Until one day he had to go back to America. I'm teasing you here with a little bit of what you're going to get next time. He had to go back to America. His mom got sick. So for the first time in, like, I don't know, how many years was it? 17 years or something? That we, I think in 17 years, twice or something, we hadn't spent the night together. Because I'd been with my sisters or something. And so it was like this shock, and I was in Delhi, and I realized I didn't even want to go across the street alone, because I was just like, I went through major shock. And a lot of stuff happened.
A lot of stuff happened.
And I realized...
I want to be alone.
I realized, well, no, it wasn't that. No, it was a realization that we were not doing enough with our lives. Or not enough. We did enough for that chapter, but there was a new chapter that had to happen. That we weren't totally fulfilling our destiny.
But this was really also my Saturn return, without a doubt.
So it was time for the destiny to happen. So next time you hear the next part.
Destiny rides again.
We'll leave it at destiny.
We'll leave it at that.